Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Neverending Audio Reviews Lagoon by Nnedi Okorafor, read by Ben Onwukwe and Ajwa Ando. As will be the case with all of this series, this audiobook is available on Audible, and the link, if you want to pick it up, is in the description. Speaking of descriptions, let's start with the blurb which is on the Audible page. 3 strangers, each isolated by his or her own problems. Adora, the marine biologist. Anthony, the rapper famous throughout Africa. Agu, the troubled soldier. Wandering Bar Beach in Lagos, Nigeria's legendary megacity, they're more alone than they've ever been before. But when something like a meteorite plunges into the ocean and a tidal wave overcomes them, these 3 people will find themselves bound together in ways they could never imagine. Together with Ayodele, a visitor from beyond the stars, they must race through Lagos and against time itself in order to save the city, the world, and themselves. You might be forgiven from this outline for thinking that this book is a work of science fiction. There are aliens, mysterious objects falling from space, world-ending events. That is what I too assumed when I picked this up on a 2-for-1 offer Audible were running at the end of last year. Unfortunately for the sci-fi fans out there, this is simply not the case. In fact, this book seems to have no idea what it wants to be. Into the mix is thrown magic, gods and superpowers, all apparently unknown to the world at large because they only exist in Africa, and no one believes what happens in Africa anyway. When I say there is no science fiction in this book, I mean specifically the science part. One of the major characters, a marine biologist, refers to cellular matter. I love science. I have a subscription to the journal Nature. My girlfriend is writing her thesis for a PhD in archaeobiology, and we have never ever heard or read someone refer to cellular matter. The marine biologist uses the term to refer to the fact that the aliens are not made up of cells, but the term is just so jarring because it is nonsensical. I could go on at length about why, but suffice to say, the author clearly just thrust 2 sciencey words together and thought it sounded cool. Hardly the most original of sins, but it is such a simple thing to fix. Then again, I complained all the way through Interstellar about them firing installations made of concrete up into orbit, and their idiotic method of visualizing time, much to said girlfriend's irritation, so your mileage might vary. Because of the everything but the kitchen sink approach to the book's untidy buffet of topics, there is no central conceit around which the book is developed. There's so many mysterious goings-on that I felt none of them were fully explored or adequately explained, leaving me feeling unsatisfied and the story feeling contextless. Why and how is this one specific road sapient and eating people? How do the aliens and their strange abilities work? What gives superpowers and magic their power? Why does an apparently random spider god of storytelling show up at the end and say, "Oh, by the way, I made this all happen," in a true "a wizard did it" moment? Everything seems undercooked and offhand, and deeply unsatisfying. I do wonder if this is due to a cultural difference though. While Western countries have our own legends and stories about magic, gods and the supernatural, we have had decades of fantastical works to introduce us to these concepts, each getting their own development to the point where we have a stereotypical shorthand that allows us to comprehend a world where vampires fight werewolves in the middle of a bustling city, in which witches vie for power against powerful secret cabals, and children contact old forgotten gods to get revenge in return for their souls. Is it purely because I do not have the relevant cultural background that I do not find this particular fantastical menagerie compelling? I can't help but feel the book's real problem is that it lacks context for all these African-specific, unfamiliar, fantastical elements. Another thing that makes me uncomfortable, though, is the supposedly inherent violence that exists in the city of Lagos. Don't like something? Kill it! Someone disagrees with you? Kill them! Someone says something is evil? Kill the evil thing, which is where the rampant religious characters in this book become really, really scary. Oh, and rape and sexual assaults are so commonplace that people barely bat an eyelid. Oh, it's bad, and the good people in the book agree it's bad and something should be done about it. But there's so few good people in Nigeria that there's no point even trying, at least until aliens come along. And that's another problem. There are two kinds of people in this book, two overriding character archetypes that everyone subscribes to. Nice or good people, and batshit insane arseholes who will perform acts of violence on you if you look at them funnily and have zero morals of any kind. You know those Nigerian scams that clog up your spam box? This book offers an insight into the people behind it, and why they do it, but it boils down to a culture that has the idea of selfish personal gain at everyone else's expense as standard. It is well known, and also touched on in the book, that some African governments are corrupt, and this attitude, according to the author, extends down to the population at large, with the industry of scams being a major part of the economy, complete with the implied justification that people are just trying to survive in a harsh country with few opportunities. However, one of the major scam artists depicted is someone who has had an education in America and returned for family reasons. He clearly has options and clearly scams because it is easy money, at which point the justification falls out of the window. This is a deeply disturbing view of Nigeria, and I hope this is horribly misleading. Again, this may be that I lack the cultural background. It may be that the author draws upon these characters that everyone in Nigeria will recognise to some extent to give their book colour, and anyone who has lived in Nigeria will know that the majority of people are not criminals, in which case the disproportionate number of morally reprehensible characters is a fault of the author. Again, they fail to give proper context. I hope. And all this is such a shame, because the audio element of this audiobook is stellar. The two voice artists are brilliant, with great range, believability and flexibility to their characters, and whoever was directing them did a fantastic job of bringing their two performances together. Male voices are performed by Ben Onwukwe, and female by Ajwa Ando, with one of them narrating the action depending on the gender of the primary character in that particular scene. The language used in the book is beautiful and varied too, so it is frustrating that the content, the themes and ideas, as well as character construction and development, suffers from what seems to be a lack of experience. Overall, despite the beautiful performances by Ben and Ajwa, I find it difficult to recommend Lagoon. Too much remains undeveloped. I could not get behind any of the characters because of the strange moral compass presented, and even the supposedly strong female characters felt weakened by the poor and unintelligent decisions they made, not to mention the random and unexplained powers, etc. However, this is only my view, and maybe I am just missing something. You can find more reviews for the audiobook at the link in the description, and don't forget to comment below or check out my audiobooks on the channel. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you in the verse.